incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought?
All right, welcome to the show today. I'm your host, Doug Crowe, with the Author Your Brand Show, where you're going to want to take notes. And of course, we're going to have something interesting to say today. I always have great guests on, and today is no exception. We've got a man here who runs a call center in Costa Rica. So if you want to lather up with some suntan lotion and get some calls made, he's probably the guy to do it. So welcome to the show today, Richard Blank. How are you?
Hey, Doug, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me here today. Can't wait to share ideas with you and your audience.
You betcha. I love Costa Rica. We're going to find all about that in the call center and how that can help out business owners if they choose to. Tell me a little bit about, you mentioned before the show, about you're an expat in Costa Rica. What brought you down there?
Moved down here when I was 27 years old, the summer of 2000, and I haven't left. And Doug, if you can get past your parents' guilt, my good friend, you could live anywhere in the world.
That's right. I was scuba diving in the Caymans once, and my dive instructor told me a very similar story. She was on a cruise ship. She got off for a day in Caymans and just didn't get back on. She just stayed. I'm like, oh, that's pretty free spirit. I like that. Is that similar? You just like went down there, like, I'm not going to go back. Is it similar story, or?
It kind of led up to it. I mean, I was reviewing your bio and background, and once again, a communication speech major. And so it was interesting that I built on that momentum. When I graduated from Proud Abington High School in Northeast Philly back in '91, I doubled down on my favorite language, which was Spanish. And I knew that was going to open some doors. And so it wasn't on a whim. The opportunity was, but I built up my desire to do this and my ability to be bilingual. So there was a lot of reinforcement before making that huge decision.
Right. Yeah. I've got our company. We have a lot of staff that from the Philippines, and they've got great experience at the call center environment over there. What's it like in Costa Rica? I mean, are you doing mostly clients for bilingual, Spanish only, or what are you working on there?
That's an excellent question, Doug. Well, let me tell you about some of the companies that are here. You have Amazon, HP, Intel, and Oracle. The reason people choose a nearshore call center, Costa Rica, compared to offshore, India and the Philippines, is multiple reasons. They like it for the proxemics of the United States, language capacity. They claim that Costa Rica has the most neutral out of English accents in Central America. The skill set, the infrastructure, the stable government. And so there's a lot of things that make Costa Rica very attractive, and we have a very nice large labor pool. But we work with companies in North America and a little bit of Central America and some of Europe, and it's mostly outbound lead generation, some sales, appointment setting, inbound support, and non-voice support. And the agents are bilingual. They're dedicated, so they only work on your campaign, and they're college educated, so they're bringing to the table a lot.
Nice. So are most of your clients are looking for the bilingual thing, or just English, or what's the bulk of your business there, language-wise?
Well, they can always switch hit, but the majority of the agents, they at least need an 85% English proficiency to work at a center. Now, it doesn't have to be accent levels. We're talking about grammar and vocabulary. Mind you, if someone has a really cool accent, it's like a Marilyn Monroe beauty mark. But I believe that since I'm in a very strict Catholic country, it's not that I don't want all of the accounts. It's just the agents have leverage. And so we refuse certain things that might be gray area. I don't do sports books, casinos, stocks, pharmacies, or sweepstakes. And I guess, Doug, being in business for 15 years and having a nice reputation after 22, it's about being selective, realizing it's very delicate in regards to people's careers, giving them job stability, dignity, and empathy. In doing so, I really had a great run for 22 years as a guest in this country.
You a surfer?
A little bit, but we have some of the best in the world in Hermosa and Guanacaste. Surf School and Endless Summer were filmed here, and they have a lot of international competitions.
Yeah, I've been on both coasts there a few times, and that was my first and maybe my last surf lesson was on the West Coast there. I don't know. But yeah, love Costa Rica. And then I just love, I mean, this, you can tell me more about it, but I was really fascinated when I first went down there. I think it's one of the few countries, if not the only country, that doesn't have a national military.
That is correct. No standing army. They put that money back into education. Great point, Doug. There's a 95% literacy rate. And so it goes to show what happens when you divert certain funds. But I tell you what, the police officers that I've seen here, they're kind of like the guys from the neighborhood. I've never felt intimidated. I've always waved and they've waved back. But it's very funny when they walk the neighborhood, it seems like everybody knows them. So
Nice.
it's one of the young kids that grew up and protect the neighborhood. So
Yeah.
this culture here is so beautiful. And there's an expression they say, pura vida, which means pure life.
That's right.
And it really does represent the culture in
Yeah.
Costa Rica.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I want to go again, just listening to you talk about it. I actually had some stem cell work done on my knee, and I went to a Costa Rican place to get that done. It was
Cool.
beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So in terms of the call center, of course, a lot of businesses are, like to expand, would like to do that. And I'm guessing is the labor cost a little bit less there or a lot less? What's the
Well, it
appeal?
depends.
Yeah.
We claim that we are at least a half or a third of what the United States is. Now, you're comparing us to independent contractors. Now, we follow all labor laws, so you have to take into consideration my benefits and overhead. But
Uh-huh.
pound for pound, it's about half if you're looking for somebody here than in the United States. But look at it like this. Call centers in Costa Rica pay more than most vocations, and I believe someone bilingual bears the mark of higher education. So
Mhm.
they don't see it as a transitional job as they do in the United States.
Right.
And
Oh
so
my
when
gosh.
you're on a level
Yeah.
playing field, Doug, and corporate can give me the sort of resources, so at least we
Mhm.
have a shot at it, I've been able to match and even exceed certain metrics.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a very small call center in Chicago for a couple of years, and the
Mhm.
attrition was unimaginable. It was just a revolving door. It was very transient. You're right about that. That was
But
tough.
there's two types, Doug.
Yeah.
There's forced and natural attrition. Listen, if
Mhm.
Skippy's not coming to work and he's getting stoned at lunch and not making his calls, I might have to fire you.
Yeah.
But I will usually lose somebody
Mhm.
because of a scheduling conflict, university, a boyfriend or
Yeah.
girlfriend works somewhere closer to home, and
Yeah.
possibly more money. But Doug, they'll never leave because of a walk of shame or I deface them on the floor.
Love that. That's great. So
Mhm.
I'm a storyteller. So I want to hear some stories of like the craziest call you've ever monitored or listened to a recording of.
Well, I believe that going across the board, anytime you can do a positive escalation on a call, I think you can
Yeah.
anchor it. And so when the plane's going down with these gatekeepers that claim to be hanging up on the phone with you, what
Mhm.
I try to do is a company name spike in the beginning by saying the name of your company better than you do and asking how the company is doing. And so what I can possibly do before, let's say, a romantic death where you hang up on me after 30 seconds just
Yeah.
because you get so many calls, I at least will have my agents do 3 proper name drops, a company name spike, some
Mhm.
active listening so they can repeat the question and
Yeah.
possibly try to get through. And so I grade on merit. I grade
Mm.
on structure and focus. And if we make these calls where we're attentive and showing active listening, those are the greatest calls. But if
Mhm.
you want me to share one with you where someone says, F you,
Yeah,
you're the
sure. Yeah.
worst,
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah.
But I believe that if they don't hang up, they're still interested in speaking with you. And
That's right.
there are ways
Work.
that people can readjust the tone and still grab onto the rock and not fall off. And so,
Mhm.
but I think the greatest ones is when they ask to speak to a supervisor and someone will
Yeah.
say that Douglas did the greatest job on the phone. You should be very
Yeah.
happy working with him. He not only
Mhm.
retained the account, he did an upsell, got a referral, and I made suggestions on what he did to increase his momentum. And so
Nice.
let's look at it in a positive way. Those are some of the
Mhm.
things that at least will get somebody to not
Right.
quit
Yeah.
and have
No,
a very
I
good
like
day.
the turnaround stories are always exciting.
Yeah, man.
One of the biggest things I've seen lately, and I'd love your comment on there's a lot of small and medium businesses don't even have landlines anymore. They just have cell phones.
Okay.
How's that impacted your business?
We just have to adjust the masses. So what I would do is if your contact ratio is going down, then maybe you should be doing some more due diligence on a LinkedIn or a website in case
Mhm.
you need to leave a voicemail or an email. It could be a little bit more custom made than just a Mad
Mhm.
Libs where you're just saying, "Dear sir, call me back." And
Right.
so I've seen instead of doing 150 calls a day, if you're doing about half that because of lines and it's going straight
Mhm.
out of your
Mhm.
voicemail, you're increasing it more in regards to that, and you're almost getting the same return. In fact, sometimes I see that you get more attentive focus when someone
Mhm.
reads it, where you really show something compared to
Right.
just pitching them. And so, but it's patience. It's patience. It's a lot of it
Mhm.
is where you're in between speaking to somebody, so you need to keep that momentum going, and that's why by leaving voicemails
Yeah.
or actively engaged in finding 1 or 2 nuggets that you could use a
Mhm.
Me Too technique to anchor with, at least it keeps you stimulated. If not, you're going to ice the kicker.
Right. Right. Interesting. One of my clients, she she's been in the industry for quite some time, You know that phrase, this call may be monitor for quality assurance,
Of
right?
course.
She invented that. She was back in the day, she started the whole monitoring of calls, whatnot. And this past year or year and a half, she's been working on an AI component that it sounds pretty amazing. I haven't heard it yet, but it's able to analyze the tone and speech patterns of people and really match what kind of response to give to them, like that whole natural language thing.
Sure.
Have you seen any dangers or benefits to the whole AI world in your industry?
The pros and the cons. I think when people have these non-voice omni-channel supports, which are
Right.
chats and emails, which could be generated and used,
Mhm.
fine. That saves time and can move things forward.
Right.
But how about this? You've been a client a long time somewhere,
Mhm.
and you'd like to speak with somebody. And if no one speaks with you, or their office hours are bad, or you're in a queue a long time, when you finally get someone, you're going to pop.
Yeah.
And there's a very good chance you're going to curse, you're going to scream, and you're just going to let
Mhm.
it out. And so these relationships cost a lot of money to build.
Yeah.
And as much as AI can assist you, it really won't put the ball in the end zone, because me and
Mhm.
you talking about your dog or your trip to Egypt or you're being a magician or these fun things that both you and I do in lives with
Yeah.
pinballs in Costa Rica, your AI will not catch that. And
Mhm.
that's where the situation is going to be. I still believe that we're not a buggy whip yet, but I do see that things have been streamlined,
Yeah.
and a lot of the clients would prefer old school interpersonal communication live compared to
Yeah.
depending a lot of it on non-voice chat. So it's
Yeah.
kind of gone both ways, my friend.
Yeah. It's like when email came out and direct mail dipped. Now direct mail is picking back up again because people are inundated. I've had a couple of interactions as a consumer
Yes.
with a couple of companies who shall not be named because I would go off on it. But I was listening to them talking to me from a sales perspective, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" And I'm, supervisor, just robots. I mean, they're actually worse than a robot because all they did was read their script. And I kept thinking, "Oh my gosh, if I just give me a half a day in that place, I can make them an extra few $1,000,000 just by telling people to think for a second." I mean, do you have ability to get people to go off script with your stuff?
I got some tips and tricks. I can give you a visual. You don't want to sound like a print. You'd rather be more of a painting.
Yeah.
There's 80% that you have to do to pass your QA score, but there's still a
Mhm.
20% wiggle room.
Right.
I can't hit the ball and drag Johnny. A lot of it has to do with dedicated practice. And also, my good friend, it has to do with being in the now. If you're in the past or in the future, you're not focused. You're going to miss the 1 or 2 second dog in the background that you could have asked what the dog's name was, the breed, the year, and how old is your puppy in order to bond with you. And so
Love that.
it's like Chuck Wepner with Ali. The guy must have looked away for 1 second in the 15th. It got knocked down. I mean, he did the whole fight. And so I believe that they call it almost like target paralysis when the jet fighters will focus on trees or the landscape compared to the target.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of moving parts there besides you having your muscle memory and knowing your script. You
Right.
should be confident enough to do a certain name drop or a clarification
Yeah.
or
I love
transitional
that.
sentences. I believe in certain things, my friend. I believe in
Mhm.
quarter-second slides when you do a personal pronoun like a you or an R to bring us
Mhm.
back in, because I don't want to overkill the name. I do that for confirmation, tie-down questions, and transitional sentences. I
Right.
pause before names and numbers, and I use military alphabet. And if you
Mhm.
can give yourself that sort of structure in the middle of the call, you might be able to reset, rebalance, and reset the tone.
Love that. Amazing. Now, of course, this is a casual conversation, so I tend to like zoom off on a tangent. I want to hear
Yeah,
about
man.
the pinball collection now.
Do you remember the show Silver Spoons back in the 1980s? I always
Yeah.
wanted that arcade. And so,
Yeah.
it's so funny. In business, the gold and the jewels lose its luster. And how many dinners can you really eat? I kind of feel like Tom Hanks in the movie Big. I might be
Yeah.
50 years old. I still feel like a 16-year-old running around Jenkintown. And so
Mhm.
I got a chance to buy what I wanted to buy,
Yeah.
besides business and living expenses. And the one hill I'm willing to die on and sword I'm willing to fall upon are
Yeah.
those machines.
Yeah.
And my wife gave me permission. I currently have 13 pinball machines and 6
Nice.
jukeboxes and air hockey table. And I
Okay.
find treasures here. People are just giving them away for a couple $100. And you just
Yeah.
order some parts in the United States, they ship them down, and an electrician puts them together. Next thing you know, you're sitting on a $5,000 last action hero machine you bought for $200. And
Ooh.
I'm thankfully I have the room. And guess
Yeah,
what, my
right.
friend? This is an environment, it's neutral. So people
Yeah.
can let off steam, recharge batteries, hang with the boss, make best friends.
Yeah. Love
And these
that.
are the sort of gamification company culture that I've instilled here that I swear behind. And I
Yeah.
think it's one of the greatest things that made my environment different from others.
I love that. That's great. What's a typical industry that you work with? You said call setting is a big one, right? Pre-qualifying or getting what's the kind of industries you work with?
We're like half and half. Our current clients, we work with the transportation industry, industrial real estate, had a law firm with me for over 10 years, also a movies and music inbound customer support campaign
Wow.
for 12 years. And so the travel companies. And as I mentioned before, I don't take things where I can't speak the language. I'll do English, Spanish, and Portuguese. I don't do graveyard shift, and I won't match the rates on nearshore or offshore. But if certain campaigns are clean, if it's something that can have a foundation to it, where if I can call my client and make suggestions in regards to the tone of the, like for an example, they'll use words like help, and I'll say, hey, Doug, why don't we just use the thesaurus and change it to assist, guide, or lend a hand?
Yeah.
Why don't we ask for my clarification just to reduce rabbit holes and to keep the pace going? And so these are the sort of bedside manner soft skills that will separate you from a salesman, because I like to look at it like this, and this really reduces any sort of stress. Two things. Learning a second language is 10 times harder than any account I'm going to put them on, Doug. And secondly, from an educated point of view, the clients make a decision. You never force a hand. If you made your argument, even by default, it should be yours or not.
Yeah.
And I think people can live with that. And that's the sort of thing to give them their chivalry, their self-confidence, and their self-reliance.
That's right. I love that. Now, of course, I have this show for many reasons. Number one, for my own brand, but I also love learning things myself. And I'm going to start asking questions about my business for you. So what's the, is there a minimum engagement, like how many seats or volume you need to have to make it worth your while?
1 seat for 1 month is my minimum contract. But if it were my own personal opinion, I like odd man outs. I'd prefer 3 seats for 3 months just to at least see.
Yeah. Right. Okay. And do you do any list build stuff, or the client's got to provide the list to call on?
Not only does the client provide me the list, but it has to be scrubbed through the DNC because my company is inscribed in the United States that follows all U.S. business and banking laws.
Okay. And for clarification, those who don't want to, DNC stands for Do Not Call List, which I'm not sure if that actually works or not. Because sometimes I
They should know, because I know a lot of people that have been hit for that, and so you have to be very careful.
Right. How many people do you have going to that list on a typical day?
That's a great question. For somebody that has a 5-minute talk time, I would recommend at least 4,000 unique numbers a month to be able to flip that list legally 3 times.
Okay, could you put that in English for us then?
Yeah, like if somebody's making a specific phone call, you'd be thinking 5-minute talk time, which could probably give you 12 calls an hour. I don't believe in that. I believe in certain minutes of wrap-up time plus an IVR, which is integrated voice response, like a voicemail or some sort of thing at a company. Plus, you might get engaged and speak for another 5 minutes, which will ruin your talk time metrics.
Right.
And so I'm lowballing everything for somebody legally, so I just don't beat up numbers a day. And so I ask for at least 4,000 unique numbers so I can put it in a predictive dialer, which is a lot different from manual dialing, which is smart dialing, click the dial, and predictive, which can give you 2 to 6 lines going at the same time, which can give you almost 100% contact ratio and almost an hour's worth of talk time. So unless you've built up for it, like an endurance runner, it can almost exhaust somebody if they've never done this before.
Yeah.
But if you can do it, your production is through the roof.
Yeah, love it. That's great. Any final words of wisdom, or what you could teach a small business owner why they should contact you?
Of course, my friend. Well, just my words of wisdom is fortune favors the brave, and you should never listen to or let the negative Nancy's and Debbie Downers influence you. There may be some opinions provided for you and a little bit of pressures in regards to the career paths you should take from your friends and family. But my goodness, look at your career and my career. These were things that happened eclectically. We believed in ourselves. We were not hurting anybody. It was all good faith. And all you were doing was being an extrovert. And the fact that you were getting so much positive reinforcement with everything you did compared to what I did, you had to keep going. And so I prepared for this. I was extremely
Mhm.
conservative in regards to my money. I
Uh-huh.
started off by renting stations, then renting space,
Yep.
then building space. And so, as long as you do a tortoise to a hare, as long as you can sleep well at night and not do any sort of
Yeah.
rash or rushed decisions,
Yeah.
and if you believe a relationship is strong enough to sleep on something, readjust it, and try to work
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
then you're going to have some phenomenal long-term relationships where you're able to get through the tough times. And so try to act your wage, don't overextend yourself, be very humble, and give the people that work with you their dignity. Because if you're a tough boss and nobody comes back the next day, you have no friends at your Chuck E. Cheese party. And so I just want to give that advice too. Don't play big boss, be very humble.
That's right. I love it. You ever do like any business coaching or consulting too, Richard? You've got really good words of wisdom here.
Man, I'm just proof in the pudding. I'm
Yeah.
living a dream life. This should have never
Yeah.
happened. And so you're just looking at someone that lives in Costa Rica from Philadelphia, married the
Right.
girl of his dreams. What would you do?
I would say, attaboy, good job. Well, thank
Yeah,
you for
thanks,
being on the
man.
show today. I appreciate you, Richard. Thank you very much, and we'll talk to you next time.
Great time, Doug. Thanks, man.
You bet. Wow, what a great call. Good ideas. If you're interested in getting a call center operation for yourself, this is the guy, CostaRicaCallCenter.com. Go there, check him out. Richard knows what to talk about. Show notes below. You can download the notes from this conversation, check out his website, and of course, give him a call. See if he answers. This is Doug Crowe. You're going to want to take notes. Have a good one.